Makeup. This is what I'm going to use. This is called the Demi Method, and it basically uses makeup color, saturated color in a very translucent way, and you don't have to use foundation and you don't have to use concealer. So let me show you how. First, we're going to add color, then we focus on maybe balancing and toning some color, and then we work on the little distractions. So it's a completely different kind of mindset to makeup, and I wear it every day and love it. So if you're interested in getting a compact like this and needed advice with which colors to use, you can go to yes.altheamatchme.com and I can help you. If you want to grab any of these colors, you can go to altheagobble.com and pick around at those and check them out. Ask any questions you have at any time. I'm an independent Seint beauty artist, and this is what I love to do every day. All right, let's get with it. First, I'm a little pink today, which is normal. Your skin's going to change often, but I'm a little pink, which I don't mind at all because I definitely don't have some natural flushing, meaning being that I am on the mature side. I am 53, so sometimes we get kind of gray and pale, but I have a little bit of redness in my cheeks and I'm okay with that, but I'm just going to tone it down in other areas. But I definitely needed some added color in certain areas where I'm shadowy and ashy. As we mature, we tend to get more hollow in here, so using a contour to contour out more is just going to accentuate that hollowness, and I don't really want that. I already have some natural shadowing going on. Adding something that's very shadowy as already to somewhere that it's already shadowed, I'm not going to do. I would like to warm up that shadow, and what it does, it balances it and in a sense contours without actually using contour. It just warms it up and makes it a little more fuller, which I want. Definitely here in the temples and that kind of thing. You can definitely contour with this method. If you want a little more structure and sculpting, you can definitely use your contour very sheerly, but you can also use the same method that I'm doing to get that structure and that sculpting that you're wanting. So try it out. It's a lot of fun. So first we're going to add some color. I like to use the 05 just where I am more bluish, hollow shadowed. I'm going to use the shape brush. All of these brushes that I'm using, the ones that are silver, they're on sale, and you can use these with all forms of makeup, like your foundations or the cream, or even with the Demi. I love these because they're more blunt on the end and it picks up little product, so you can do more of that airbrush and use very little. I'm going to use an 05. This is in saturated orange but translucent, and it's going to add color and it's going to neutralize some blue. So what would I call blue? I would call blue shadowy, where you see it's kind of ashy. I have some veins there. Very, very pale skin definitely is more on the blue side. So I have, my skin's really thin here on the forehead, so it's going to be a bony look to it, which can give that white appearance. So adding a little bit of orange to that will counteract that whiteness, that ashy, and then you also see more veins. I do have age spots up here, so the orange works really well to neutralize some of that darkness from some age spots and help be a go-between pale and age spots. So it's a great color to do that with because it's translucent. It's not going to drop in a lot of product. And you don't want, you see how orange that is? I do not see that on my skin. So that's the difference than traditional makeup. You're not going to see it and then try to blend it. And you shouldn't be applying it like with your fingers or anything like that, because you're just going to put in a bunch of product and removing most of it. You should not see the color. That's the reason why you always want to go very saturated and the colors to use, because it's going on translucent and you're not going to drop in all of that pigment. And that's the reason why it looks kind of scary in the tints, because you're looking through all of the product, and on the skin it's see-through. Now I like to, right in this little area where I definitely have a blue vein and it's naturally shadowed. So what I want you to watch as I'm doing that, do you see how this warmed up that shadow? Because I do have more hollow cheeks. I don't want to use a contour, and I've always struggled with using contour colors and contouring the traditional way that you see online, and it's because I have large pores, I have scars from my youth, from acne, and I also have age spots. And so when I add in something that has that depth like that, it just picks it up and looks splotchy. This warms this up, and at the same time, do you see I still have some sculpt? It actually enhanced it more, but it's not hollow, and I don't want it to be hollow. So I'll do the same thing here. This side, see, it has more of a lighter area here. It's bonier. I'm more hollow on this side, and you can see it here. So I just want to touch where it's more blue shadowed. I don't want to follow like a pattern or anything. I put it where I need it. Here, I put it right on that blue vein, and then right in there where it's hollow. And you see how it follows with my natural structure already. And the great thing is, in person, you're not gonna see this brown, dark, harsh line that looks odd in person. It's just gonna look like my skin, which I want. But do you see that looks less hollow? It looks fuller, and that's what I want. That's the same thing with my temples. We get hollow right here, and adding a little bit of that orange on there counteracts that shadowed hollowness, okay? I also like to take a little bit right here on this part of our neck. We typically don't get a lot of sun there, and I don't mean like when you sunbathe or if you get any sun. It's just you're going to get some kind of pigment build up over time, and we end up having less here, so it makes that separation. This is going to be a little more pale, plus blue veins, translucent skin. So taking a little bit of orange, I want you to see how clean my brush is. That is how much product that it's going to take just to counteract the paleness and the ashiness. So that's just using orange by itself. Really, really like it. It does everything. It's just the change comes on you softly. Now I'm going to try something a little different. I'm using Palm. I've used it before. These, let me explain my colors. These are the Demi correctors. This is an 05, 03, Y01, red one. That's the Demi correctors I'm going to use. This is what I've already used on my brows, the brow wax and the indigo contour. I'm going to use these colors to add in color, just like I did 05. I'm going to use Palm. It's more of an orange bronzer, and I like this neutral orange, but it's a little like the NO- one in the Demi Sculpts, but this you've got to use very, very surely, and don't get heavy-handed. That's the learning curve. I just want to use this to build in some color where it's very, very pale. So I'm going to use the small end of this brush, and I might need to even use smaller. Smaller the better. It takes very, very little, and I just want to use this in areas that are very, very icy and light colored. I'm also going to take it and put it over those blue veins. Probably should use a smaller brush, to be honest with you. When I get off the forehead part, I will switch brushes. You see that light area there? I'm just going to take a little right here. You can do this with contours. You can do this with bronzer. You can do this with self-tanners. The concept is adding in color where you're missing color. And do you see how that looks more even, more toned? Like you can see from my chest to here, I just need to bring in some balance to my face, and you can see how that brought it in tune with everything else. I'm going to switch brushes to something small, like the bright brush. Something small. You can't have too many small brushes. And I'm going to use, again, a little bit of palm right here, coming down this way, forehead down. I'm going to find those light areas underneath my eyes. Now look, it takes super little. The brush is lightly tapping. I should never see the color on there. Using it like you're tinting the skin, and you see how that's building in some color first underneath my eyes in those very, very light areas. And that is going to, because you can see the harshness of lines from hollowness around the eyes, and a lot of this is pigment in there, freckling, those sort of things. So I just want to counteract the light to the dark first, and that's all I'm doing so far. And I've done this, if you've watched me or seen any of my stuff, or you're new here, go check out all of my tutorials and you'll see I have done this multiple ways, but the concept is always the same. Adding in color where you need it first, okay? Not following any kind of pattern or hack or anything like that. You're just sitting down and analyzing, okay, where's some areas that I need additional color, and playing with saturated color to drop in that color. And you learn so quickly doing that what colors work. And I have done this with different products, and they always have the same theme. Something very saturated, something in that's going to drop in some color and add color in these light areas first. Then the very end, I go and take out those small distractions, which are minimized because I added color in first. So you can see right there, I've added a little bit of Palm bronzer. And each eye is going to be different. You can see the difference between them. I like to smile and get different angles to find those light, flashy areas that need color. And the reason why those are there is as we age and things fall down, it changes the direction of the skin and the structure, and it becomes where the light hits it differently. So it's not necessarily dark underneath the eyes that's the bad thing, it's the light that is making it worse. So focus on those light areas, and that concept and that mindset, seeing under eyes that way, is just so new but makes so much sense. It's like, why didn't we think of that before? And you could totally just do your eyes this way. If you like wearing foundation, totally fine. But you struggle with creasing underneath the eyes and you never get real happiness with your under eyes, just do it here underneath your eyes, and then everywhere else add some color. I would do your eyes, then cheek, and then you could do foundation to tone the sides part of the face, and then you can do your contouring. But highly recommend, if you struggle with under eyes and getting happiness with your concealer, to try this first. So I'm just dropping in that light areas with that Palm bronzer, and you can see how this is just coming more into balance. I'm going to do the same thing on the nose. I struggle with really getting using contour on my nose. I have very large pores and a lot of color, very textured nose, and it just never looks good. Might look good on camera or for a tutorial on video, but in real life it just looks dirty and my pores are accentuated. So I've always struggled finding the right color. But instead of working on finding the right color, I just work on adding color in those light areas first. And you can do this with different things. You can do this with your contour color. So that's really, really light, bright area. And what it is, it's an area that's lacking pigment, like over the years of sun damage, that kind of thing. And just putting it on that dot where I needed additional color, it just really changes. And at the same time, it shows the true shape of my nose and without any odd angles and odd coloring on my nose. It just looks like my nose in its skin, which I want, but make it look better. Okay, be sure to ask any questions you have. So far, I'm just dropping in color with that Palm Bronzer. I'm gonna do the same thing here on the sides of my face, just practicing finding light areas, and you become really, really quick at it. And I'm barely tapping. My brush is very clean, and I'm just tapping where it's light. Now, people think, okay, just take the bronzer and smear it all over. Then I'm back to where I began. I have discoloration and unevenness. So if I color it with whole one color everywhere, then whatever was dark is darker, and I still have the same struggle. So here I'm trying to match the go-between, and you will find it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to do that. I found it really made a difference using such little product when I do this. And you can see that looks more even, and as if you saw the few places that I touched, as if I have a more even skin tone. This side, I definitely have more sun damage, more splotchiness, and I always struggled like how to make that more even without building color on dark areas. And this actually, doing it this way, adding color in those little light areas in between dark points, became so much quicker on this side, which I thought would be a lot of work. And it turns out that it's not, it's actually quicker. And I'm not always trying to think, okay, what's fast? Because honestly, anything that takes you 3 minutes to put on is fine. You can throw something on in 3 minutes, but honestly, I like to take a little more time and like the results 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours down the road, and still enjoy what I put on that may have taken me 20 minutes instead of just 3 minutes. So notice how that is so much more even. And I'm just touching in light areas, spaces in between dark. It just amazes me how little it takes just building in that color. So this part of my eye, do you see that light area? So much better. And see how clean my brush is? It takes so little. So I'm going to do this exact same thing on my lips, which is great for mature ladies to do this because we get lines around our mouths, and anything that we put on that is heavy and will crease just accentuate the lines. So I'm just tapping in those light areas, getting different angles, and seeing those areas of lightness. Same thing here. This works great for scars, added texture around your chin. Focusing on those light areas helps minimize the differentiation between light and dark, and it makes the texture better and a little more smooth. Same thing right in here. Do you see That is dark. All right, so when I smile, I'm just going to add color on either side of that dark. And when I go in and filter, it ends up being just a few dark points in there, and then it smooths out and makes this more smooth and less harsh. So right in there, and I like to smile and get the different angles. Okay, now that's all I'm going to do with the palm bronzer. All right, now I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to use the cedar. I can do this with the indigo contour, but I want something to add a little eye color. You can use eyeshadow for this as well. I'm just going to use a little bit of the cedar and add color around the areas of my eye that are light, like right in that pocket. This works great for all eye shapes. Instead of focusing on how to apply eyeshadow in different ways, I'm just adding color where it's lighter, and especially for hooded eyes or aged eyes, how this becomes more prominent and comes more forward. I'm just dropping in some color in those light areas, and at the same time, like I have some veins and stuff like that, I'm not going to go over top of that. And since so little is used on my eyes doing this way, it lasts all day. And I always get questions asked, what eyeshadow are you wearing? When it's really just the colors that are naturally occurring in my skin. I've just balanced it with adding color where I'm missing color. So I definitely already have a vein that goes on through there, so I'll filter that out. But right here in that little pocket, little piece of area, I like to accentuate a little bit right in there, some additional color. And when I smile, there's just like this little light patch that makes that dark vein stand out. So I add that color into there. I'm going to use this bigger end and do the same thing there. So your eye is not necessarily what's on the eyelid, it's what's around it as well. Okay. Same thing right in there, those little areas. Like instantly you can see how everything is coming, it's in tone, it's in tune, it's in balance with the rest of my face. All right, see it's super dark in there because it's very hollow. I'm not going to add color to that. It's very purplish. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I just want to minimize what's around it. And you can see how it's a little more in balance. I will have to put a couple of dots of filter color in there, but it's a lot less than what it was before. And this eye is different than this eye. There's a few, it's more wrinkly, so I don't want to add color there on the wrinkle. So on either side of the ridges of the wrinkle, I just tap a little bit of color on the eye, just adding color in those light spots using a tiny brush. And you can see how quick that is. Same thing, needed additional color outside. I did a little palm bronzer in there, but I need a little more depth. Okay, then I have this lovely vein. So what I like to do is the light part of the vein, where light is hitting it because it's raised off my skin, is I only tap right on top. And do you see how it's minimizing the intensity? The vein's not going to disappear, okay? I'm just taking away the light and dark so it's not as prominent. Same thing here, it's like a light spot and a light spot, and then there's a dark vein, and I'll filter that out with a filter color, but you can see it's not as prominent as it was before. And it's like there's this area right here that's just sticks out, but what it is, it's not necessarily sticking out, it's an area that has no pigment on it. So dropping in some of this cedar in those areas. Okay, like that. It's pretty simple. Right in there, that little pocket right there. So much better. And you can see I have other colors on my eyes, but I'm using it, and I'll actually drop in a little bit of color on the lash line in just a minute. Also, we have this cleaning towel. This is ideal working between your colors, is to clean them off to keep your tints true to color and your brushes, especially if you're just using a few brushes. All right, I'm going to do something a little different. I tried this out the other day and I really liked it. So I'm going to use Spellbound, this Red Violet 7, and I'm going to actually use it where I have this purple. I want to continue that purple in these little areas here. I know that seems very, very strange, but I experimented with it the other day and I'm just slightly tapping. And the reason why this works, it's mimicking blood flow, which actually brings back life underneath the eye on mature eyes, especially because we get super light underneath our eyes as we age, and adding that color in certain little spots. Notice I'm moving it out down in here and applying this red violet in areas that typically we're trying to take away that color, and you can see how it looks more fuller. If you get too much, just like I did there. Okay, love it. See this little spot here? Now, like I said earlier, my cheeks are a little red today, so I'm going to use that to my advantage, but you could do this even if your cheeks are not red. I'm going to continue down here on my cheek in areas in between that are red. Just kind of like a couple of dots, and it gives me a naturally flushed cheek without putting product everywhere. Using Red Violet 7, tiny brush. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So, you know, I have that deep purple in there. I can go right beside it, right in here, in those very light areas. I just want to use that color where I'm like super thin, hollow, and it's bringing back some flush underneath my eyes and looks more natural and looks like skin. Doing the same thing here. I'm going to go in between areas of redness. Notice how little I'm using. All right, and just a few dots in between areas on your cheek, light areas. If you have pigmented cheeks, same concept. Go in between them and just dot it. My brush needs to be shorter. I'm trying to, here, let me go this way. There we go, I can see now. So when I'm getting ready in the mornings, I'm using like a daylight bulb lamp kind of thing that is not really a ring light, but you can use a ring light, but just I can get ready in the bathroom as well, as long as I'm using daylight bulbs. This makes it very easy because it's dark when I'm getting ready in the mornings. Okay, just use a couple of dots. Okay, that already surprises me. I'm gonna try that on my nose. I'm gonna use the same, let's experiment and see these little light areas and bring back some blood flow. Okay, really like it. I'm gonna do the same color, my brushes. I've got them just balanced here on my legs. These are all the brushes I'm using. Not many, but notice they're all little. I'm going to use this same color, and I'm going to add some of this violet, red violet, to the lash line. Ladies that I've colored matched in person, and they have this gorgeous veinage that's very, very violet right in there, and the ones that I've seen that have that, it is so pretty. And we just add and balance some colors around it and leave that color at their lash line. Looks like they have taken time to put on eyeshadow. So I really love that. So I'm just mimicking that. I don't naturally have that. And this sometimes I like to pretend I do. I do have some veinage there. So I'm just tapping around it and not on top of. And it gives you some, just gives a nice healthy eyelid look with a little bit of color. Okay, a little spot on my cheek that's missing color. Okay, I'm really liking that. All right, now I'm going to filter out dark points. I'm going to start with anything that's kind of red, violet, bright red, and I'm using a little artist detail brush, or you can use a spot brush. And all right, do y'all see that? Do you see how you see the product? That's because I had too much of my brush. If that happens, it's totally fine. You just kind of tap it away just a little bit, and it's just because I got overzealous and used too much, and it takes so little. Do you see that? How you do not see any product. So it just takes so little. Again, I got too much. So I just tap it away. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with the broken capillaries right in this area. And at the same time, what happens, this is going to soften this line at the exact same time. So what I thought would be very, very dark is only a couple of dots of dark, and it softens the whole area. So you can see how that softens this area at the same time. Now in here is a couple of freckles and broken capillaries. So I am just going to soften. See, I've already added color on either side. So it's just really a couple of dots in that shadowed area. You can use 03, Y1, and do you see how that's so much softer? Same thing here. This part of your nose, sometimes the little dark, a couple of dark veins or a scar. The nose typically gets very colorful, and if you filter that out, see how it softens this already? And same thing, it's always going to be right in that deep little shadow, and if you look, it's accentuated by something, some dark point in there. You can do this. I'm going to use this color on the top part of my nose. Those little tiny violet dots, and it will smooth out the texture of my nose, and you just get so little. These colors, these tints, should last you well beyond a year. Right in there. Right, the eyes right in here, that deep one, it needs a couple of dots inside, right in there. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to lose all the color. And right in there. I just want to soften and take out the prominence of it. So right in here, it's a little less, got too much on my brush. Again, it should take little. I never should be putting it on and then try to blend it out, because you always go back to square one. You've created additional problem. You've lightened areas that need lightening, and or vice versa. You added color where you didn't need to add color. There was already color there. So that's the reason why I'm only focusing on the most distracting. Same thing here in the chin. The whole chin looks kind of pink, purple, violet. And I can tell you, this violet color, this little bluish violet that we get, if you are medium to fair, the older we get, the more prominent that gets. And so I just took out a couple of little dark areas in there, and you can see how that softened up the entire chin. Now, because my cheeks were a little red, and even though I added color in there, I'm going to go back to any kind of hot points, those that had too much color. I don't want to take away the color and have like a little white spot in there. I'm just taking out a couple of the hot points. It's the only way I can describe it. They're like little tiny red, and you see how it smoothed it out. Yes, I love it. Alright, same thing here. And if you ever feel like you get too much, you can either take your finger or other end of the brush. I always just kind of tap it away and use my brush in a tapping motion. I just drop my brush and just tap away on there. Okay, see this? These are the ones, you know, I added color where I needed additional color, and I always end up with a lot easier to filter out. Not too much. Just gets smoother. I'm just tapping and going because I got too much on my brush, so I'm just spreading it out instead of keep dipping in. And then you gotta also learn to, the reason why you want to tap and go is because, especially if you have the tendency to get red, you're going to get blood flow come to the skin as you touch it, especially if it's a bump or a zit or something that's already red, like rosy cheeks or anything. So just trust it, touch it, go to the darkest points and let it go. Give it time to settle down and to rest. And family going by. And let it rest. And the blood settles down, and then you can see, I always like to say, look away and then give yourselves a few minutes and then look back, and it just totally all disappears. And if you got heavy-handed, you'll see it and you just tap it away because it dries down nicely, and it gets better as you wear it all day long. Okay, now I'm going to use these little shadowy, anything with depth of color. I'm going to use this 03 to take away any depth of color, and that's mainly like things are shadowy. Now remember, I added color on top of this vein, so now I'm going to subtract color in those tiny little dark points, and you will never actually just follow the vein. You're just hitting a couple of the darkest points within it, because a vein never really goes in a straight line underneath the skin, and you can see that's a lot more balanced. This little vein right here, remember I added color on either side of it. Now I'm just taking out the depth, and they meet in the middle, and it matches everything else along around the area. Here I have some age spots. They are not as prominent as they were because I added color in between them. So just a little bit See that little area? It dried down and I could see where I got heavy-handed with it, so I just tap it away. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing on my lips. There's a couple of age spots, not a couple, but I'm not going to touch all of them above my lip. I've added color in the light areas, and now I am just focusing on those little dull brown age spots that I went in between. And what happens when you take care of those dark points? The lines are not as prominent because the brain is not processing the dark and applying it to everything else in the face. It's now only focusing on the most dominant color, which is more of an even tone skin tone. All right. Now I like doing this. This is like the red one. Just right here, there's some dull, light brown that kind of collects together right here on that bone. And do you see how it gives the illusion that this continues down through there? And really it's just a couple of little brown spots. So I'm using red one. Same thing here. It's a little different on this side. So it ends up being, there's one or two light little brown freckles. This is a common area for us to get sun damage and not even realize how it's sitting there and adding shadow when it's really not shadow. It's just dull brown and giving the illusion that you have to something that's already shadowed. It just accentuates it. So that's so much softer. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of color to my lips using Spellbound. And then I'm going to put on my mascara and I'm done. And I'm going to do the same concept. I'm only adding color in lighter areas. Got heavy-handed there. Because as we age, we lose volume in our lips. Now you can put on your favorite lipstick. Got a little heavy there. You can totally put on your lipstick. Sometimes I have a gloss that I like to put on. But you can do the same concept on your lips as you did the face. So I'm just adding color. I forgot what I was saying. As we age, we lose volume in our lips, and when we do, they can tend to fall in, and it exposes some light areas. Also, sun damage on the lips will get little light places, and it will give the illusion that they're chapped or missing color. And sometimes as we age, some ladies that I've noticed, their lips get very, very blue, and I just tone it down with this orange, and it looks as if you've put this gorgeous, beautiful, pinkish nude on their lips when it's actually just their lip color. We just took out the blue a little bit. I want to do the exact same thing. I want to take a little bit of the orange, the 05, right in the center. And I'm done. You see, it gives a nice little pink nude because it takes out the blue on the lips and leaves behind a pretty pink red. And I have extremely very little product on my lips, so it lasts all day. All right, I'm going to put on my mascara and call it done. And you can see I will not need any setting, and I will not need any powder, and it will never crease on me all day because there's so little on my skin. And completely possible without foundation and without concealer, just using these very saturated colors and very tiny areas. It's a lot of fun to apply. Again, the concept is add color where you need it first. Don't be afraid to use very, very saturated colors just in a very sheer way. Then focus on like maybe adding some color in the cheeks and the eyes and the lips, and then filter out the dark points the very end, which will be a lot less than you thought because you've put balance into the overall look first. If you guys wish to be color matched and need advice on which colors could work for you, and you would get specific tutorials and graphics designed just for you and for your needs, and I will always be here to help guide you, and we can troubleshoot together as you learn a new way to see your makeup. So go to yes.altheamatchme.com and I'll be glad to do that for you. If you want to grab some of these colors to play with, you can go to altheagobble.com and just pick around in there, and if you need any help, let me know. Thanks for joining in. I'll share my before and after. I'm going to put on my mascara, and I'll share those in my stories. Thanks for joining in, guys. I appreciate it.